Welcome to the Once Blind Podcast. Your host, Carlos.
What's going on, everybody? Nice to be back. It's been a while. Let's jump into this idea of the woke church, which is interesting. I've heard plenty of sermons of awake, you sleepy Christians. Awake. I've never heard be woke. Nope, not to this day. At least not in the Bible. And I was watching something this morning, and it was the last straw for me. I just couldn't handle it anymore. And it did make me very angry of racism being in the church. Of course it is. You have people in the church. Of people being stereotypical. You're dealing with people. Of course it is. And not all stereotypes are bad. So I don't want to put both together. The problem is racism. The problem is the fear of someone because of their race. The hate for someone because of their race. But today's problem is the pandering towards people for their race. Now I want you to follow a train of thought here. And this is the first thing I want to tackle. When we look at history, and since we're talking about the topics here in America, because those are the hot ones. So in history, we know that the outer villages in Africa would go into the inner villages and send them out. And they would sell their own. When did those people apologize? We know that it wasn't only Europeans selling slaves from Africa. And I'm not going to talk about all the different nationalities and races that have been slaves to other people before, because there have been all types of slaves before. We're talking about here in America and the African slaves that used to be here, though that is an atrocity from what we hear. Slavery in the sense of because of someone's race or how we treat someone once they were out of slavery, because it still went on for a while, the treatment towards black people. But not only black people, brown people too. And I know, I don't look brown. But it's actually pretty interesting. So much racism goes on towards Hispanics, towards browns. I mean, it's why the brown berets were created so long ago. Because someone had to stand up, but we don't hear any apologies for that, for how we treat Mexican Americans. You know, the names that we call them, Southern Americans, Caribbean. No, we don't hear apologies, but either way. So the Spanish then put Africans on ships, brought them here, dropped them off in ports, where Puerto Rico got his name from, the rich port. And Dominican Republic and all the Caribbean. They used those places as slave ports because they figured they could drop them off and they couldn't escape. But the Spanish people that brought them over, they didn't apologize. They know history. They know it was messed up. Now, today is what I'm talking about. But they've moved on. And it's not to say, oh, boo-hoo, move on. But it's to say, I still haven't heard anyone apologize for when they were dropped off in these islands. And they came and did what they did as people from the inland. And they took over. There was pillaging, rapings, and all that. No one's apologizing to the Caribbean islands for the culture shock that took in place and the infiltration of different culture. No one's apologizing for that. But today we have white people here in America falling to their faces to kiss feet, to say sorry, apologizing for being white. The Spanish brought you. Why don't they have to apologize? In the Spanish from Spain, for those of you that don't know the difference, why aren't we making Africans in Africa apologize for what their ancestors did? But white people, they have to apologize. White people are the problem. Systematic racism, this racism, that racism, it's all white people's fault. That's just not true. But that's the world. So we think. But this morning, I go to do a devotion, read, get through that. I figured, let me listen to a message. And a message that pops up. And again, this was my tipping point. A pastor who thinks he's so radical because he tells his church that they need to do the things that the Bible says they need to do, the things that they were commanded to do. This radical man of God apologizing for being white? What are you doing? What fault do you have? We need, as the church, to be praying for healing. Because yes, some people are scarred by the things that happened. Some people are hurt by the things that happened. And the things that continue to happen today, because here's the thing, racism isn't going anywhere as long as you have people continuously looking back, just seeing the problems. And what I mean by that, and I'll use myself as an example. When I came, I was very young. My dad came here for a better life. It was him, my two brothers. First place we set foot was predominantly Hispanic area. Like we would. I mean, it's safe. It makes you feel safe. There's more people of your ethnicity there. So he moved into a predominantly Hispanic area. Then from there, we couldn't find a home suitable or that my dad thought was suitable for us. So we moved into a town very close by that was very mixed. They had a certain area in the town that was predominantly Hispanic and Black. And then the other side of the town, I remember we used to call it white section. And I remember crossing into the other side because I dressed the way I dressed. I was called a wigger. And for those of you that don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not going to define it because it's stupidity. But because I look like this. But when I was on the other side, on the side that I so-called belonged in, people saw this. So I didn't fit in anywhere. I wasn't Black enough. I wasn't Hispanic enough for the urban side of the town. And when people find out what my name was or that I had an accent or anything like that, I wasn't white enough for the other side. I've had cops pull me over, treat me very kindly, because I guess I look like this. But then they would see my name, and then it was like I played a trick on them. They got mad at me. I've been called names you wouldn't believe. And I grew up hating, not liking all types of people because everyone, for some reason, had hate towards me. Racial hate. Growing up in this, I refused to believe, though, that everyone was bad. Because a person who taught me different, by treating me differently in the sense of how everyone else was treating me, was a white guy. His name was RJ, great cop. This guy didn't see race. He was a tough cop, but he didn't see race. And when I was doing something wrong, he would, hey, what are you doing? With every right, I was doing something wrong. I didn't think, oh, racist. He saw me doing this illegal thing and he decided, well, I'm going to go after that guy. No. He saw me doing something illegal and he came and did his job. The funny part is the only cop to ever beat my rear. His last name was Rivera. Woo! How's that for irony? But now here's the thing. I'm an older man now. I've lived through. I remember our school, when I moved into this town, was still segregated. Hispanics and blacks went to one school. And then on the other side of town, in the white section, was the other school for grammar. And we overpopulated the one school. Overpopulated it. They were looking for solutions, and the solution was to send some of the kids from the urban school into the white school. Literally, it's what it was called. And because me and my brothers look like this, we were the first ones to go to that school. And there was a couple people who were accepting. There was a couple people who weren't. At the time, we were oblivious to it because we were so young, but there were still going little race wars at the high school because at the high school level, there was only one high school. So, and I know you're thinking, well, you don't look that old. No, this was in the 80s. Okay, we're not talking about 60s and 50s. This was in the 80s. But yet, as we all lived together and we grew up together, and we put a lot of that aside. And though there was still racism and there was still different opinions of people per race, fears of people per race, all the things that we still see today, it was better than it was 10 years before. Like today is better than it was 10 years before, and so on. We haven't fully healed. We haven't fully gotten through a lot of this. It's going to continue because you're dealing with broken people. But because people are trying to become better, it has been getting better. It has changed. It's not going to be completely gone. You still have faulty people. You have faulty people teaching their faulty beliefs on other faulty people. It's less and less. And let's celebrate the fact that it's less. Let's be aware and continue to make progress for the things that haven't changed. But see, now we're talking about the church. Again, what are you apologizing to the people in your church about being white? Why? What would make you think that that's what's needed? Pleading, please educate me, people of other ethnicities. Like, you're a part of the problem now. You have made yourself the problem. And then other pastors that are doing very similar things. I remember one instance going to a mega church, and to take a step back, I was helping out a church in an urban city. They yearly had a fish fry, music, someone giving word, and a barber there to give fades, all these things, because they were ministering to a city. So they were putting out things that people in the city would like. There was nothing wrong with that. But understand, they knew where they were at, and they ministered to the people where they were at. It's like saying, if you're inviting a Puerto Rican over, maybe I should try to make rice and beans. That's not racist. Unless it's horrible, then it's definitely not. But it's giving someone what you think they would like, or even asking them, hey, listen, what do you like to eat? Because I was thinking of making this. And listen, if you ask a Puerto Rican to eat rice and beans, chances are he's going to say, yeah. Okay, arroz con gandule? For sure. Are you going to add a pork chop to that? I'm on it. Shoot, listen, if you ever invite me over to eat and you make rice and beans and pork chops or pernil, I will not call you a racist. I will thank you. But again, that's what they did. One year that I was helping out, I was thinking, hey, you know what else we should do? And it'll draw an even bigger crowd to this, and we can minister to so much more people. Let's do a motorcycle stunt show. And I remember the gentleman who came out Came out, he did his thing. It was a horrible day. It rained, stopped raining, rain, stopped raining. It was bad. And this guy was a trooper. Even in the rain, for some of it, he was doing his thing. Had the music going. So many people came. So many people had a good time. So many people got to get loved on, and in the right way, not in that weird way where, oh my God, I haven't seen. No, yeah, I mean, in the right way where we were able to feed. Obviously, people were hungry. Some people were more hungry than others. We had food. Some people like music. There was music going on. We gave the gospel. We made sure everyone heard the good news. Let them know how much Jesus loved them, and not in the weird way that the churches try to make it today, but in the fact of this is how much he loves you. Now choose. It was a great time. It was awesome. But being that I went to a mega church, I wanted to do something like that because this church in particular ministered everywhere else. They would go all the way miles away to throw an outreach, or actually it was an in-reach, but nor here nor there. We'll talk about in-reaches later. But they would go do an in-reach. They'd go to the shore, or they'd go 3 towns over to do something at the park. And they weren't ministering in their own area, in their own zip code. And now this zip code is predominantly white with a great mixture of Hispanic, Asian, Black. They are there. But the church in itself, if you were to pick predominantly, it would be a white church. But then again, most people were from Staten Island. So it would be a Staten Island. But either way, I digress again. And I brought this idea to the senior pastor. And his idea was to tell me to write it out, put it in like a program, make it something that he can see and read. And I did that. I mean, it was hard. I got people to help me, boom, but I did it. And I left it there, and him and the other leaders were supposed to get together. And then I get a phone call from a good brother who was an assistant pastor at the time. And I remember one sentence. I don't think it's for the demographic of this church. I was blown away because I knew the answer was no. But I didn't understand what this word demographic is again. I blew away my years at school. I didn't really study much. It's not till Christianity that I decided to increase my vocabulary. So I looked up the word while he was talking. Thank God for phones. And I understood this to be, it's not the type of culture or race that we're trying to reach or that predominantly come here. And I stopped him from continuing his explanation and said, listen, I know this wasn't from you because you and I are cut from the same tree. Our education is not the same. So if I didn't know what this word is, you don't know what this word is. I'll talk to the person who said this. And he says, no, it's, no, stop. I know this is not from you. I'd rather talk to the source than talk to the messenger. And I went straight to the source and I said, that is the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would you say that it's not the demographic of this church when our church has a lot of different people? And again, we were going to have hip hop. We were going to have rock. I was going to use people within the church to provide music. We weren't having a fish fry. We were having hot dogs and hamburgers. I think that's pretty diverse. Motorcycle stunts, that's pretty diverse. I don't understand how I was aiming this towards any demographic. I was aiming this towards people who didn't know Christ. I wanted to draw all types of people in, especially because of the area that we were in. So many people that came, watch motorcycles, eat free food. It's free food. Who doesn't go to free food? Have some music and have some people give the word, give their testimonies, whatever it may be. I wasn't aiming this towards any demographic. Why would you say that? And of course, there was the political answering, as every good senior pastor does when they don't want to be called racist. But man, that threw me off. In today's climate, I watched another pastor pander to a gentleman, and a lot of what he said really wasn't racism. It was more of bad luck and good judgment. And he called it racist, and that pastor who was doing the interview was agreeing and apologizing for it as if he himself had committed this. This pandering again. I don't get it. Now, the part that kills me is this, right? The pastor that was black that they were interviewing, because many churches were seeking him out, because it was like you ever heard that really racist statement when someone says, I'm not racist, I have black friends, or I have a black friend. Well, at this point, every pastor was looking for that black pastor, and he happened to be the one. He was the token one. And it's sad. Why don't they ever call him in to speak about what it's like doing ministry in the urban city? Why did it take years for them to even think of the general area that he was at and the fact that urban cities don't necessarily tithe so much to help him out? Why didn't they think of him when it came to giving his testimony on how he fell away for a while growing up in the church, going through his rebellious stage, and then from there coming back on fire to the point where he's now a senior pastor of his own church? They left him out there. But the minute they needed someone who is black so that they can show that they're different from other people in churches and so on and so forth, he should have stood his ground then and said no. But he has his own reasons and whatever's whatever. But do you know the message that you as the white church or as the white pastor were giving people? And now I spoke to this person and I said, why would you pander to this? And again, going back to this guy that's just apologizing for being white. I will never apologize to anyone for being Hispanic. And we're on this topic of just this so-called mentality of being woke. It needs to stop. What we need to do as a church, and here's the solution for the churches, is realize that you in your church have all types of people. People are going to go where they feel more comfortable. People are also not going to travel if they can't. So if you're in a predominantly Hispanic area, right, and there's a church down the street and you can travel as a Hispanic, you might go to that church. If they speak Spanish and you don't speak English, you're not going to go to an English church. You're going to go to a Spanish church unless there's none near you. People are going to go where they feel comfortable. That is not segregation. That is comfortability. Sometimes with music. Hey, we'll make it a simple one. For those that are into hymnals and old school organ music playing, which I think is the cutest thing ever. People who can play the organ, that thing is massive, and you see these little people playing it. I mean, people who are into that are going to go there to hear these old hymnals and hear most of the church sing. And today we have the contemporary. Okay, people who are into contemporary, they're going to go where there's contemporary. And then there's people who are into gospel, and they're going to go where gospel is played. And some of them are going to go according to religion. If they're more Baptist, they're going to go to Baptist. If they're more Seventh-day Adventists, if they're Pentecostal, if they're this, if they're that, whatever it may be, they will go to where they feel comfortable. Asian churches, you see them all over the place. It's because they don't speak English most of the time, and they're preaching in their language. It's not because they're forced to go there. For this guy who was apologizing to his congregation for being white, if someone black, yellow, green, purple, you pick the color, came to your church, would you push them away? No, so what are you apologizing for? See, the thing is that we need to stick to the truth, and the truth is the gospel, and the fact that broken people need Jesus. So teach that. Don't apologize for being white. Don't apologize for where you come from. Because if that's the case, then we have to apologize to everyone. Because at some point, at somewhere, it was everyone who messed up and did something wrong. But so many places have changed their mentality, their ways of doing things, and they move on for a better future. Not to forget, not to say, oh, it never happened. No one says slavery never happened. Because it did happen. Most of it was atrocious. And I do say most of it because some people actually sold themselves into slavery or put themselves in slavery because that was the only way they were going to eat or have a roof. Very few. So don't get it twisted. Okay, the racism that came afterwards for me is even worse than slavery. The oppression that came afterwards, that to me was so much worse. But see, it wasn't only blacks that dealt with that. Hispanics dealt with that. In New York, Irish dealt with that. Italians dealt with that. Wherever you're from, most of the people dealt with that. It's what happens when you have a melting pot of different people. You have stereotypes. You have all these different things. See, with me, I've learned to deal with racism, at least towards me, by just laughing at the stupidity of people and moving on. Not apologizing to them because I'm a minority or because I look like this. Oh, well, I'm the lucky one. Which, by the way, I can't stand when people say that. I've dealt with it from so many different ways, and I'm speaking to you from experience. It's just not something I want to harbor, something I want to hold on to. I want to move past it. I want to live on. Those that hate me for wherever I'm from or who I am or what I believe in, I don't care. There's a song, you can hate me now. Yeah, you can. I don't care. And our mentality and our ideas, we have to base them as the church on what Christ wants from us. We're going to go through persecution, so people, please stop pandering. You don't understand that the world right now, when they're pandering, little by little, people are seeing what it is, the whole apologizing, this, that, all the extra stuff that we're doing supposedly as reparations, okay? They're starting to see that's more racist. Telling someone that because they're from a certain ethnicity that they don't have to get an A to be top of their class. If they get C's, it's just fine. Lowering how hard a test is for a certain ethnicity, that's racist. But it's the opposite side of it. Telling people that they're not smart enough to do something, so we're going to make it easier for you because of your skin color or where you're from. Come on. You don't think people are going to catch on? And that's the world. Why are we doing it in the church? Do you really think, church, that Jesus is up there saying, well, they're black, they're not going to make it. We got to make it easier. They're yellow, green, purple. They're all these different colors. We have to change the whole game for everyone according to their ethnicity, their religion, or whatever it is that they are. No. Christ died and he paid for it all. Didn't matter where you're from, what you're about. He paid for it all. He put it on our hands. No race, no nothing. No Jew, no Gentile, right? So then why, as ambassadors of Christ, do we continue to act as if we're going by the world's logic, by the world's standards? We need to keep all this woke crap out of the church because it's not helping us, it's dividing us, and we're supposed to be united. We're not supposed to pander to anyone. It's Christ or none. You're either for him or against him. How plain is that? And then us as the church, again, it's not that we ignore, but we go and be a part of the solution, not by treating people differently, not by handicapping others according to their race, by giving them the gospel, by giving them Christ, by being examples of loving one another the true way the Bible has asked us to, commanded us to, that we love our neighbor. I don't see the Good Samaritan being a handicapping or a belittling yourself to make someone else feel better. Nowhere do I see that. If you know what is right and do wrong, that is sin. But to sit there and say, I apologize for being white. Please, my pastors and brothers and elders who are different ethnicities, teach me. You want to learn? Go hang out with them. Go spend time with whatever it is. I have friends that are from the Middle East. They have different ways of living, cultural differences. I remember walking in and a grown man feeding me food to my mouth. I was like, what the hell is this? In my head. And then I realized, you know what, it's different. Whenever he did it in the future again, I lost my train of thought and was like, yeah, no problem, whatever. Okay, because that's what they do. If I was uncomfortable to the point where I felt disrespected or anything, I would say, hey, listen, where I come from, we don't do that. But I didn't, because he was showing love and hospitality the way that they do. And now if I see it anywhere else, I can respect that and move on. Now, if I don't get that type of treatment, I'm like, what did I do? You see, when you live amongst different people and you hang out with different people, you get accustomed to a lot of the things. Now, that doesn't mean I have to change what I believe in. I do become a little bit more accepting towards others as long as it doesn't go against the Bible. You see, and that's the key there. What does the Bible say? What am I doing according to the Bible? And if I join in, am I stumbling others? And let me tell you, you churches, you so-called pastors, you so-called men of God, by giving in and apologizing for where you're from, or saying that you, as the leader of that church, are a part of the problem, that you are a part of the problem of this racism, you just made yourself that. What you should have been doing is praying and telling others, let's pray for our country. Let's go out there and love these people who are hurting now because someone they loved got hurt. Let's not make excuses for it. Let's not point this out. Let's not take sides. Let's not do any of that. Let's just love on people according to the situation, not because of race, not because of this, not because of that. And let's not join movements that are completely set on dividing us. And again, I will say, I still have yet to see any media, anyone talk about what Hispanics went through in this country. And nor do I want it. I don't want to be handicapped. I don't want to be pitied. I don't want to be looked down upon because poor Hispanic boy, poor Hispanic man. No, I dealt with crap because of it, and I moved on, and I grew, and I got stronger for it. See, the church isn't here to pander. The church here is to help people heal and help people set themselves aside, die to self, so that they can see the greater picture, which is Christ came and died, resurrected to give us eternal life. But we're focused on pandering. We're focused on people liking us. We're focused on people not seeing us as racist, as homophobes, as this, as that. We don't want to be classified as anything that's considered negative. Look, call me what you want. I don't care. At the end of the day, the only thing I care, or the only opinions I care about me, are what does God say? Number one. What does my wife say? Number two. What do my children say? And then after those three, then what do my brothers and sisters in the church say? And not that it's going to deter me from doing anything, but if I have to repent, if I have to change something about myself, then that opinion will matter as long as it's according to the Bible. But even their opinion about me matters this much if it has nothing to do with the Bible. You know how many people want to judge as soon as I do something wrong? Carlos used profanity. Carlos said this. Carlos said that. Oh my God. I don't care because I'm human. I make mistakes. I don't go out there and do it on purpose, but I slip up because I'm an imperfect being in a broken body that is designed for God, that I basically did what I wanted with it. And now I'm broken trying to heal and go through this process of sanctification. I put my head down when I sin. I look up for forgiveness. I move on. When other people hurt me, I'm sad, like everyone else. But I look up. So I don't care what the world has to say about me. I don't care what church goers have to say about me. Whether it's racist, whether it's truth, whether it's this, whether it's that, none of it matters if it's not going to help me become a better person, a better Christian at that. So my brothers and sisters, whoever's listening to this, okay, stop buying into this trend for people who are Black. I know the struggle. I felt the struggle. What worked for me is knowing that people are broken. People are broken. People will see color. People see clothes. People see the exterior of a person. Everyone does. Before they see what's inside. And that's sad and it shouldn't be. But it is what it is. Do not allow it to bring you down. Live for Christ, and you'll see none of that matters. For those that are Hispanic, I'm with you guys. Viva la raza? No, don't. Anyways, Hispanics, Asians, all the ones in the middle, right? The browns. Let's keep living the way we're living. Let's keep moving forward. Let's not buy into either side. Let's just share God's love. And for whites, stop apologizing for being white. Stop pandering. If you are a part of the problem, then fix yourself or ask God to fix you. But if you're not, don't apologize. And this is key for all races. Don't apologize for someone else's sins. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own sins before God, unless you submit yourself to the authority of Christ and all sin is forgiven. Doesn't mean you go back to doing whatever it is. But all races, be responsible for your own things. Because each and every individual has enough things to be responsible for or take responsibility for than to look to the past or look to the left and the right to see what other people are doing to make that a part of yourself. Cut it out. And as for this whole woke movement in the church, I hope it dies very soon. Because you're distracting people from the truth. God's truth. God bless you guys.
Thank you for dropping by. Please remember to subscribe, to share, like, and to catch the next one.